Hello everyone, this is another video inspired by Historathon2024. It's effectively a book haul of the Pax Romana and comparing, perhaps throwing it into the contest arena with the SPQR by Mary Beard. And why? Well, because they seem rather very similar. The SPQR is published in 2015 and the Pax followed in 2016. So I've only just this is absolutely literally the other day. I've had this knocking around for a little while, and I've only read the first opening gambit of either of these two publications. Because they're both books appear to cover broadly similar content, potentially the broadly similar scope. I thought it might be interesting to compare what they actually, literally precisely what they actually say in these opening bits. It does turn out that they do say curiously similar things, perhaps for perfectly sensible reasons. They both talk about why and how Rome is still relevant. In short, they do so in subtly different ways, however, which I hope I can illustrate as follows. The Mary Beard begins literally on page 1, paragraph 1. To ignore the Romans is not just to turn a blind eye to the distant past. Rome still helps to define the way we understand our world and think about ourselves, from high theory to low comedy. So, how do we understand the world, and how do we think about ourselves from the point of view of Rome? It's a good question. Well, in the Goldsworth, he says, again, absolutely the beginning, opening paragraph, page 1. Pax Romana is one of those Latin expressions that journalists and cartoonists still expect their readers to understand without the need for translation. A cartoonist can depict a modern politician in toga, sandals and laurel wreath and invoke Julius Caesar or a generic Roman emperor and know that people will think of a leader betrayed by those close to him, or of one prey to pride and folly like Caligula or Nero. Few schools teach Latin or Greek, but TV documentaries about Rome are common, and dramas appear every so often, tending these days towards ever more lurid pictures of a world of treachery, sex and violence. Such caricatures tell us little about the ancient past, and a good deal about current tastes in entertainment. But it is striking that their makers are confident, setting these stories in a Roman context, because they feel that the audience will recognise the world. Which does seem to be a certain contrast. Perhaps even Mr. Goldsworth gives us an answer, whereas Mrs. Beard gives us a question. Each has its own merit thereby. The very next sentence, however, of the Mary Beard. After 2,000 years, it continues to underpin Western culture and politics, what we write and how we see the world, and our place in it. Whereas the Goldsworthy has as follows. The Romans continue to fascinate us, even though more than 15 centuries have passed since the collapse of the Roman Empire in the West. In language, law, ideas, place names and architecture, they have had a profound influence on Western culture, and much of this has passed on to regions wholly unknown to the Romans. Okay, so that's 2015, that's 2016. You'd be forgiven for supposing or thinking that perhaps Mr. Goldsworthy was writing his opening paragraphs having read the Merrybeard, and perhaps even with the Merrybeard in mind. And she says, yeah, and she just says something completely off the wall that I've never really encountered before. That I don't know. What do you make of it? She says this: Roman history is always being rewritten and always has been. In some ways, we know more about ancient Rome than the Romans themselves. That seems to me to be a pretty curious thing to say. Any comments will be appreciated. So, yeah. Okay, see, she then says this on literally page 3. Our world would be immeasurably the poorer if we did not continue to interact with theirs. But admiration is a different thing. Happily, a child of my times, I bridle when I hear people talking of great Roman conquerors, or even of Rome's great empire. I've tried to learn to see things from the other side too, which does, of course, seem very sensible and perfectly reasonable. The Goldsworthy has this. Most importantly, in spite of all the problems of evidence overwhelmingly generated by the imperial power, we must consider the experience of the conquered peoples as much as that of the Romans. So there we have, evidently, the victors apparently always write the histories. I don't know. I'm not quite sure which victors are ever doing the writing of the histories. Presumably the Romans do a lot of writing of the histories, or do they? Not sure. I'm not sure just how far Tacitus goes with, for example, so saying things such as. But there we are. That's for further discovery. What Merrybeard also says, again. Yeah. Okay, how about this? Rome was not simply the thuggish younger sibling of classical Greece committed to engineering military efficiency and absolutism, whereas the Greeks preferred intellectual inquiry, theatre and democracy. It suited some Romans to pretend that was the case, and it has suited many modern historians to present the classical world in terms of a simple dichotomy between two very different cultures. That is, as we shall see, misleading on both sides. And apart from being misleading, it does seem to me to be highly curious as to, and very peculiar, as to who these mysterious, unnamed historians actually are, who say all these things that are misleading. Either way, in the packs, we have the following. All data is subject to interpretation, and often opinions differ radically, often being overturned by fresh discoveries or new methods of analysis. I have tried to be fair, but have presented my own views on these matters. Others will see things differently. So, fairly typically, he appears to be having a little crack at this whole thing with evidence, and of course, these guys are the guys who are dealing with the evidence. I'm not dealing with the evidence. I'm just reading what the work that they've already done. And these people, they're not average people. They're not regular persons. Mary Beard is a professor of classics at Cambridge University. And this guy, I think, what did it say? He's got a doctorate from Oxford University, etc., etc. So these are not ordinary people. They're not ordinary, not even ordinary scholars. Professional scholars, 9 to 5. Perhaps they kind of know their business, and perhaps they know their own mind as well. And yeah, Goldsworth, he does stay. He doesn't stay. He says that although there are different opinions, and some of them are radical opinions, they are often being overturned by fresh discoveries. So when these different opinions and radical opinions have been overturned by these fresh discoveries, is that it? Is that the end of it? Are there any more different opinions or radical opinions about the new histories via the fresh discoveries? Goldsworthy has the following. When writing about the ancient world, almost every statement could be qualified. I hope that the reader is shown enough of the evidence and the methods used to interpret it to make up his or her own mind on these issues. And that's the sort of thing that I'm familiar with, and seems like a perfectly sensible, decent, intelligent idea. That's just a good idea. It's just perfectly sensible. And just like to finish with this bit here. Goldsworthy also says, and he's talking about Augustus and Ovid, and he's effectively quoting Ovid, who says, he hoped that the goddess of peace would let her gentle presence abide in the whole world, so that there would be neither foes nor food for triumphs. Thou shalt be unto our chiefs a glory greater than war. May the soldier bear arms, only to check the armed aggressor. May the world near and far dread the sons of Aeneas, and if there be land that feared not Rome, may it love Rome instead. I'm sure they're both tremendously good books. I kind of hopefully will be reading both of them, but certainly the Pax Romana. And I think it's about it, really. So, bye for now.